Welcome to Earth 2 Comic Cast, where superheroes exist and comic book talk is the norm. We are here today to talk. This is our first review show or just show discussion of the year, and we are here to discuss WandaVision. If you can tell by the overlay, and if you can't tell by whatever else is on the screen, then that's on you because we're here to discuss WandaVision, the MCU's first television show. Yeah, outside of
I mean, their first like MCU,
right.
Like that's done by the core people who do the movies.
The movies, yeah. So this with what we know, this is like the first. It also ties into the movie side of things. So this is the first time like the movie world and the TV world are in are in unison. Yeah, because we get like the Netflix shows and they call it the event, or what is
the first season of Daredevil is like a pretty good like sequel to Avengers. Like it follows up on some of the theme, like stuff Avengers, but then it just
stops New York and it's just Daredevil. So this is the first time. To do this discussion with me, I have Roy. He was here for first video game discussion, and he's here for our weekly or bi-weekly ranking shows, which we haven't done. I'm thinking, Roy, what do you think about ranking superhero TV now that we have like an MCU show that we can throw in the mix?
We might want to wait until WandaVision.
So WandaVision is yeah. All right, so I'm thinking superhero TV can be a thing. I'm definitely interested in that one because Legends of Tomorrow is the god tier show for me, and I don't care what anyone says.
I mean, we're talking about live action shows in the 21st century, or are we going to go all the way back to like the 90s Flash?
We're starting from like maybe Smallville. But yeah, let's go from Smallville. Maybe Arrow. From Arrow, because I think that's
I mean, Arrow is like the modern era of that.
Yeah, stuff. So we'll go from Arrow. But let's focus WandaVision.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get to do an episode 1 and 2 for this because it dropped. It was the first 2 episodes that dropped, and I thought, the third episode dropped, and it looked to be a really. If you watch 1, 2, 3 together, it looks to be a really big episode. It's just one episode, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So it just happens to work out this way that we're going to be discussing episodes 1, 2, and 3. So, after episode 3, if you had to think about 1 and 2 and just when it was done, when 1 and 2 were the first 2. So when those were done, what did you think at the end of that?
Well, I really liked it. In fact, you could say that I love it. But I mean, I think it's an important caveat for me when talking about the shows that I'm an MCU mark. Like I love the MCU. I watch like the whole thing. Like every year
do you do the MCU binge before the new movie?
No, yeah, but what I do once, maybe even twice a year, depending on how depressed I am, is I pick a Marvel character, one of the big 3, Tony, Thor, or Cap, and watch all of their appearances.
Wow.
So I did Tony before WandaVision came out, which is like most of the movies.
Right.
So that was what I did over winter break.
Wait, so did you so an appearance, did you watch any of the Spider-Man movies?
Yeah, well, the first one.
The first one, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because I really enjoy the movies. They're fun to have it on the background. I just enjoy them. So, and the other thing is I'm also a giant old sitcom fan. Like, while you were being cool and interesting in high school, Mo, I was sitting at home watching TV Land and Mad reruns on FX.
Oh, come on. I did watch I Dream of Jeannie. I watched
Bewitched.
And that is the vibe. I after watching the first 2, my thing was, I need to go look at Pleasantville. Yeah, and I actually did. I actually went and looked at Pleasantville, and I was like, wow, this is, that's the vibe I got from the first 2 episodes. Did you?
Definitely. Same. Okay. Oh, very much the same. And I mean, before talking about sort of the MCU content, I think it's just like as prestigious of the sitcoms, and this is the third one. It's really good. Like, the humor in the first one is the same as the Dick Van Dyke Show. The humor in the second one is the same as Bewitched, right? It's very, like, really, they put so much work in the set design. Like, it's just a gorgeous show, too.
Yes.
Like, the costuming is amazing, so.
Oh, you could tell that this had a budget of, I mean, Disney Plus, so far, we haven't been disappointed. Mandalorian, now this, looking at the budget they put into these productions, I'm saying, yeah, like, I'm guessing movie, I don't know, but it looks like we're getting movie TV budgets in this, like maybe not an Arrow budget, but like a real like budget, and they're spending all that money to make the show look good. So it does look good, even where it's supposed to look wonky, like it's like say back in like a Pleasantville, not a Pleasantville, back in like a Dick Van Dyke type special effects where it's supposed to look like that. It still looks really good for for a modern TV show. So yes, all the elements, all of those things make the shows work. Everything works in that sense. Now, before we jump into the show, the only thing I think that I didn't necessarily like is that they didn't drop the 3 episodes at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the 3 episodes work together as a whole, as opposed to waiting, now looking at episode 3, because I finished it pretty recently. So now looking at episode 3, I'm like, you could have done a 3 episode drop and then maybe go from episode 4.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, they gave critics the first 3 episodes. So it's clear. I think it's clear, like, I guess a lot of criticism of the first 2 episodes is it's like, some people like me really loved how much it was willing to own its premise.
Yes.
And keep some of the MCU stuff kind of in the background and like soft horror. It's the third one that pays all that off.
Yes.
I don't know how spoiler we want to be.
Oh no, we're
right. When Geraldine / possibly Monica is booted out of Wanda's reality at the end, that just pays off those 3 episodes.
It does.
And that makes sense why you would give critics, so they know, hey, it's not just all set up.
Right.
And they won't badmouth your show, being like, this doesn't pay anything off. But you sometimes see in these kind of niche genre shows that can be like, it's too slow or it's too obsessed with itself, and then later they'll be like, it's great, because they didn't want bad buzz. And they should have just done the same for fans.
I think they should.
I definitely agree,
because a lot of the fans, like myself, were like, and then you watch episode 3 and you're like, oh, okay. Why'd I have to wait a week for this? And so that's the only thing. There's one more thing. Apparently, you were supposed to get 6-hour-long episodes, I think, or maybe
it's 9. I think actually we're getting.
So now we're getting 9 30-minute, so chopped episodes. So it's going to play out really chopped. Again, it might not be a problem because it'll still pay off at the end. But I guess because Disney's trying to stretch things out again. COVID and other things they couldn't fit into because we're supposed to be getting Winter Soldier and
right after this.
Right. We were supposed to be getting that first.
Yes. Which I think you can kind of tell that WandaVision wasn't designed to be the first Marvel thing that people get. Because like all the trailers and like stuff that's come out about Winter Soldier it's like very straightforward. Like this is an MCU story. You got Sam, you got Bucky, they're dealing with Zemo. Action hero stuff is gonna happen. Like,
yes.
Right.
And this was supposed to be, let's relax or let's calm down type thing. While we're supposed to be getting people hyped for Disney Plus Marvel content, you were supposed to get that. And so it's very clear. And I think maybe they're trying to stretch it out so they can finish Sam and Bucky right on time and then drop that right after.
The other thing about Falcon and Winter Soldier is there's rumors that it's tied into Black Widow. So they want that something in that is in Black Widow.
So now you need Black Widow. Oh man, COVID is really it's really messing content up. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's whatever.
And this is safer because the stuff that this is going to set up, which is also announced, Spider-Man 3
and Doctor
Strange is 2021 or 2022, 2023.
Right.
Although actually, are we getting Spider-Man this year?
Spider-Man is
winter, right?
Later. Yeah, later. I think October. No, December.
Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah. So we're also gonna find a way to talk about all of that and all the things that are getting postponed because somehow everyone thought in 2021 COVID was gonna be gone. And
I'll say my comments about people are optimistic, myself included, about the people are choosing to not make their lives better. So.
Yes, so let's calm down on that. But no, those are the only 2 things where I'm like, the show could have, again, COVID. But it's not necessarily a complaint. It's just a thing. Like, it'd have been nicer to get the hour-long episode, and everything will kind of flesh out in one episode, and you could wait for next week. It's now you have to wait to see how the payoff from episode 1 and 2. I guess that's the only thing. Again, critics got all 3. we get to get 1 and 2 and 3 when we get it. Again, not a huge complaint, but just a thing. So now that's done. Let's get into all the good, because it's literally all good moving forward. The first 2 episodes, as you said, self-contained, not Marvel, not MCU. Like, again, if you know WandaVision, then you just know what their powers and know what they're about, and that's what episode 1 and 2 did. And it did it really well. I especially love the talent show.
The talent show is really funny. Paul Bettany, like, I was not expecting. He's actually, in many ways, more of the center of it than Elizabeth Olsen is.
Yes.
Like, and that's not to downplay it. Like, she's also really good. I think also, particularly episode 3, she does some amazing.
It's episode 3. Yeah, episode 3 was her thing where she really went in. But Paul Bettany sold episode 2 for me. Like, he really went into that. The whole thing of Vision being super out of it, and the magic show, and the
sitcom drunk. Like, he did it perfectly.
Perfect. Yeah. So, but I do like the setup of for someone who I like to see a lot, Deborah Jo Rupp. I really loved her from that 70s, and whatever she's in, I'm already in it, and she did really well in the first episode. I thought, the meeting.
Yeah, that ending of that episode was really, again, just really well done.
Yes. And then it's Vision helping, where they're stuck. And so now, seeing 1, 2, and 3, the next question is, I don't know if Sword and Shield.
Right.
So let's talk about Sword and Shield for a second.
Sword in the comics, right, is kind of space Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Shield was never destroyed in the comics.
Yes.
Many of the viewers, listeners to this probably know that. But Sword in the movies looks like it's the organization that Nick Fury / the Skrulls are working with in Far From Home as kind of the Shield replacement. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming based on the trailers that there's going to be a lot more about Sword that we'll learn about.
Right.
But it looks like that's what it is. I mean, it's basically the same logo from the comics. This isn't a spoiler to say that Sword is going to be a big deal in this series because it's in the Disney marketing.
Yes.
They put out a bunch of stuff about Sword. But I'm guessing that's what Sword is the Shield successor.
Right.
Because
Shield is kind of destroyed in this, right?
Shield was destroyed at the end of Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yeah.
And the question of whether AOS is canon is something I don't think we should spend the next 500 hours arguing.
Literally spend a lot of time talking about that, and there are fans that say yes, and there are fans that say get that out of my face. But I think it's whatever.
I'm agnostic. I don't care. It doesn't take away from me if it is canon. It doesn't add anything for me for it to be canon. So I'm happy. Like, my sister, if she ever would listen to this, is a huge Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan.
Listen, we're out here.
Yeah,
we're out here.
Hey, and apparently the ad in this episode is related. It's a reference to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, thank you.
So,
yeah. Thank you.
The internet told me that when I was.
I love the ads. Can we talk about how you're watching? This is supposedly you're watching a sitcom, and so we're watching the show, but we're also watching a sitcom, and then you have little breaks for ads in between. The first ad was, I believe, a Stark
toaster that uses the old Iron Man sound effects, which was great.
Yes. The second ad was a Strucker watch.
Yeah.
And then the third ad is Hydro Soap. I love how they just show all of that in between. There's a lot of Easter egg drops. Again, I think
there's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. So let's do this, right? So let's talk for the people that don't read the comics. I've never read the comics, House of M, or nothing. And let's just, if you were telling someone about this show or the first 3 episodes, how would you do it?
That's a really good question. So the question would be one, I would say if you've never watched a Marvel movie, don't watch this.
But then I think this show, if everything went the way it was supposed to go, we'd be getting Winter Soldier and Bucky. Bucky and help me out. Sam. We'd be getting wow. We get Bucky and Sam, and then we get everything that we're supposed to get in the WandaVision with falling where it's supposed to fall in. So now I think this is supposed to be for MCU fans that are just MCU fans and maybe not. So again, there's two phases, as you were saying. If you've never watched an MCU movie,
watch an MCU movie. Go like that's because there's just like because you
Age of Ultron.
Ugh.
No, seriously, because I feel like if you watch the Legends on Disney, they do want to give that. I feel a lot of it has to do with, unfortunately.
I mean, I recently rewatched Age of Ultron. Like, I think I might have mentioned it. I feel like I talked with you about Age of Ultron. Like, it's just like too much is going on in the movie.
It is,
and there's good moments. I think Wanda Pietro are one of the better parts of the movie. Yeah, I mean, this is the most Age of Ultron has ever been mentioned. It was in one episode of WandaVision. I mean, well, no, that's not true because the whole Civil I can never say
Civil War.
In Civil War, Slovakia, I can never say it right.
Sokovia.
There we go. Sokovia. But I am impressed. Like, it really showed. Like, one of the things that really, really impresses me about WandaVision, and I really appreciate about superhero fiction that does this, is it takes all the source material really seriously, and then but morphs it for their own uses. Right. So they bring all of Wanda's Eastern European stuff in to tell a different story than Whedon was doing in Age of Ultron, right? To like add texture to her as a character in a way that makes sense within the context of WandaVision, but also references that previous stuff. So it's all additive rather than being like, well, we're going to forget about this stuff that we don't like. Kind of like how the end of Age of Ultron forgets that Winter Soldier happened and that there is there's small carriers floating around, just because that's what we didn't want it. Anyway, what I would say to somebody who is WandaVision is a superhero mystery story is really what it is. It's like, what is going on with this world that Wanda and Vision are in, right? And that's I think the core of it is like, who is doing this? The show asked in the second episode, who's doing this to you, Wanda?
Yes, who's doing this to you, Wanda? I do want to talk about that though a lot.
I do too. I think there's two kind of like schools about what's going on. One is who's doing it to you, Wanda? That some supervillain or organization is doing it to Wanda.
Right.
Where where it's kind of set up that maybe Wanda was doing her superhero Avenger thing and gets caught up in this.
Right.
That's like kind of school number one. And then school number two, particularly people influenced who are familiar with the comics, of the story called House of M, where Scarlet Witch there's two stories actually. Avengers Disassembled, one of the single worst comic books ever made. And then House of M, which is a fine comic book, whatever. Where Wanda loses control of her powers and creates her own realities.
Right. Right.
And so that the person who's doing this to Wanda is herself.
Right.
So where do you sort of fall on that?
Me?
Where are you leaning?
Oh,
are you more
100% Wanda?
Villain or Wanda?
Wanda, 100%. And I feel like the reason I'm leaning Wanda has to do with the last episode 2 and then episode 3. Episode 2, you get the moment, the shadowy figure with the sword logo on his back, who I really, really look at this. Listen, don't take my word for it. But I'm like, is that Doctor Strange? Because I don't know. You don't see his face. It could just be a random person, but I like to think it's Doctor Strange because he ties into this, So that moment where she goes no, and then rewinds the whole thing, and she wanted a child, or she had heard how everyone kept asking her, when are you guys gonna have a child? And then episode 3, she manifests the entire thing. So yes, she got. It could be and there's a mixture of both, where it could be she was fighting and it's she just loses herself in the fight and creates this. So I'm still leaning to Wanda 100% doing this. I mean, but then you have that question in episode 2, who's doing this to you, and you're just like, shit. So there's a chance that since we don't know everything, it could be an outside entity doing this. Like, hey, we could be getting mutants at some point, so someone is messing with her brain, right?
Yeah. Well, the first 2 episodes, I was 50-50. And I was leaning maybe a little bit towards say it's a supervillain doing it because of the end of the first episode when the guy's choking. The look at her face isn't so much that she's doing it, where she herself doesn't quite understand what's going on. And a moment to realize, and then she goes, Vision, save him, boom. And then the second episode where someone is saying over the radio, Wanda, who's doing this to you, gave me evidence that Wanda may be enjoying this because she wants to be reunited with Villain. She wants a kid. She wants that family stability that was taken from her by Tony Stark and Strucker and Ultron. Like, so she's enjoying this, but it's something that's kind of being done to her to take advantage of her powers.
Right.
But the ending of episode 3, where she boots Geraldine out, makes me feel that Wanda may end up being the villain.
Right.
We'll see if they do that. Like, that's a very controversial decision that was made in the comics to make Wanda a villain for about 5 years.
5
years.
And if she ends up being a villain, she, in my opinion, is the strongest or the second strongest Avenger. She will wreck house. And it'll be so much fun to kind of see. I mean, she did almost kind of kill Thanos and he rained fire, but which is also in her Legends story, because I made sure to watch the Legends, the first 2, which could have been YouTube episodes, but
when I saw they were 7 minutes, I'm like, look, I just watched these movies. Like, I don't.
Right, they cut so much of the movie, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, really? I've seen all this, like, but no. So I want it to be Wanda. I really do want it to be Wanda. It'll be a very, very. I think it'd be a more interesting story if it's Wanda who ends up being a villain. Now, this is another important question. Vision is still okay. So Vision is still out of commission,
as far as we know.
As far as we know, right? Was there a body at the end?
The body at the end of Infinity War.
Oh, did he disintegrate?
No, he's like,
he just lost his
thing. He turns like dark,
right,
like grayish, and then you never see Vision again. And then when they were asked about where Vision's body was, the guys who did the Russo brothers, they said that that's a story for another time. And there's a 5-year gap. Like and the Surrey stuff. Like, we don't know whether this is some kind of like they reboot Vision, and that causes Wanda to like lose it. She's like, oh my God, Vision's back, and creates this. Or did she create him out of her powers, or some combination of it? There's also some rumors that are going around that people are theorizing that this might be Wonder Woman 1984 in this situation, where she's projecting Vision on somebody else,
right?
Which I really do not want them to do.
No, please don't.
That was
terrible.
Bottle of non-consent that was a genie that that movie needed to put back in the bottle.
It never should have happened. They should have just brought back what's his name at some point, or just if they could do that, why can't they just bring him back? But yes, so Vision is out of commission for all we know, and so my thing is this Vision, as you said, or is this a conjured Vision from, again, this could be her whole. But if she did conjure Vision, she'd give him all his powers and all his abilities. And if you look at the trailer for the show, there's a point where Vision actually tries to, Vision tries to rescue one of the neighbors. I forget her name. The first neighbor she met before she
Agnes, the actress?
Yeah, Agnes. Yeah. So it's just a lot going on, and I don't know. I'm super interested, as you called it, a mystery. I'm super interested in seeing, what the rabbit hole, how deep this rabbit hole goes. Like that's the thing that WandaVision is that's one of the biggest things about maybe having a 30-minute run episode is you can now chop up so much and keep people like more interested, because if you give us an hour-long episode, it's like, oh, we get all of that in one. How will you keep us coming back? Again, it could have worked, but this works in its own better. It's just the first 3 would have been great if we got the first 3.
Yeah, got them all together. And breaking them up even into concrete episodes makes sense based on like the setting that they're doing.
Right. Because again, if you're going sitcom, it has to have a 30-minute runtime. Most successful sitcoms, most successful shows of the type run have a really short runtime, 22 minutes, about 30, and then commercials in between, which they're doing really well. And again, the ads, amazing.
Oh yeah, the ads are amazing. Yeah. Vision, like I'm leaning towards that he is created by Wanda. But he's created as Vision, So it's a vision. It's not. It's not. It's a vision of Vision. Because one not only does have his powers, but he seems to have like agency, right? Like
right.
He's figuring this out. He's figuring this out, and then she resets things when he's like figuring. And at the end of this last episode, he's still like figuring out. I would imagine that going forward, one of the storylines is going to be Vision like investigating what's going on.
Right.
As like, I imagine that's going to be the two threads is like WTF Wanda, and then Vision being like the horror story kind of Vision, right? Where, or it's really a horror story or thriller, right? Like where your wife is seemingly beautiful and everything's perfect, but actually she's, I don't know, a serial killer or whatever, some Harlan Corbin novel. Right. And that's going to be one of the plot threads. And the question is like whether or not Vision comes out at the end. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends with Vision telling her to stop and saying, and them having the tearful goodbye again. And him doing that.
If she breaks down and she becomes a villain because she stops that and she can't control whatever she's done, that would be amazing. Again, it'd be a solid decision if they do, but it would be a very tough one. Like it'd be a first for the MCU where they actually go, you know what? Because Civil War tried it, but they didn't go in as hard as they should have.
Right. Well, because if they do, like one of the problems of the original Civil War comic was like both of them were kind of villains in it.
Oh yeah, they were both villains.
And particularly, like Tony Stark was treated very much as a villain in the original Civil War comic. Right. And then he wins, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's okay, Tony wins." And you're like, "Wait, what? Wait, did we read the same comic? Is this the same Bush administration? Like, is this? Wait, I'm confused, Mark Millar. Right. But I'm a little bit more skeptical that Wanda will emerge here as a villain because she is the most prominent female Avenger that's like consistently appeared. And the only OG Avenger from the first kind of like two movies, and like turning like, and it's like people don't really appreciate maybe now that we're like 10 years after House of M, how controversial House of M and Avengers Assembled were and what they did to Wanda. And then also in the 80s, because there's two other stories that's really important to keep in mind if the comics are influencing this. One is the original Vision and Scarlet Witch series where they get married and they have kids.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a charming 70s Marvel story. In the 80s, John Byrne hates that they have kids. Hates that they're in a relationship. And he writes a story that utterly destroys the Vision and tries to salt the earth. It's shown that Wanda's kids are not kids. They are aspects of the devil Mephisto. And that they were never real. Wanda goes crazy. Vision, I forget exactly what happens to him. He gets rebooted and is completely white. And that was extremely controversial in the 80s when they did it. And then when Bendis did it again in Avengers Disassembled, that was also extremely controversial in House of M as well. So like the decision to turn Wanda into a villain and make her a crazy person, make her unstable, is very controversial. And I think to make her permanently like she is going to be the antagonist of the next Doctor Strange movie, that's a really aggressive move. I don't know if they're going to do that.
If she is, it'll end up where I don't think they will stretch it out as far as they did, in the comics. If she is, it'd probably be one movie and one move, and it's just done. And now you move forward with the rest of the MCU where she's kind of having to redeem herself. Again, it's still be controversial, but I would like to see that. I sound like a horrible person.
But there's a lot of storytelling grist in there. Like I definitely agree. Like I'm a hater of all the of those two big storylines. I really hate Avengers Disassembled. I hate it so much. It's 20 years ago now.
That was kind of horrible. It was horrible.
But and then the mention of Mephisto though in that original breakdown storyline is one of those questions of like which villain could be involved in this, and some people are saying Mephisto, the MCU Marvel devil, which would be fun. Like I think particularly because there's been some other references to Mephisto, like the rabbit is named Senor Scratch, and that is a name that in another horrible Mephisto storyline, One More Day is one of the aliases he uses.
Right.
And of course, all the jokes that Agnes makes about the devil in the second episode. So they're clearly like aware that people have read Vision and Scarlet Witch comics.
Right. So they're dropping a lot of Easter eggs, and it's fun. It's fun. I think that's also another fun thing is like, what are they going to mention in the next episode, I'm gonna be listening out for, you watch it once, you watch it twice to catch everything you miss. And that's kind of like the fun in WandaVision. I'm gonna watch the first 3 as a whole, like 1, 2, 3 again. I think that's just gonna increase how the watchability of the show. But yeah, have we covered everything?
I think there's 2 things that we didn't cover.
Go ahead.
One is Agnes. Do you think she is a character original to WandaVision? Or there's a lot of rumor, like there's another character with a similar name, Agatha Harkins. Is that how you say it? Agatha Harkins, I think is how you say it. Who is a character who's very tied to Wanda and is like kind of a hero-y villain, like she's kind of gray as a character, or whether or not she plays a version of that, or is she just somebody who's just involved.
Okay, so I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking she is this is a new character to this world. I'm thinking that because of, I mean, she's really involved with Wanda, so they could be trying to throw you off, like, is it that? Like, I think that's what they're trying to do with this. And so I'm like, no, I'm not falling for that. Like, I could fall for anything else, but not that one. I think she's unique to this story, but she's really involved with Wanda, and she could be, if this is in Wanda's head, if this is Wanda's creation, she could be one of the things where Wanda is using to protect herself from whatever's going on. And which is why when what's her face? Help me out.
Geraldine,
yeah. When Geraldine kind of like enters, it kind of messes with the whole like thing. It's like she has no home. Where she come from, type thing. And yeah, that's where I am with Agnes.
Cool. I'm of the belief that she's one of the most prominent actresses.
Yes.
Like, it's like the Law and Order trick is like you find out who is the actual like actors that that people know, and they're probably somebody important. So she's probably someone important. I would lean towards her being maybe Agatha Harkins. I think we'll see whether, or Hawkins, I think is how you say it. Whether we'll see soon, I think. The other major thing, of course, would be the twins. We didn't talk about them at all. They make their appearance in the 3rd episode. And Wanda's kids, who are now Wiccan and Speed, are on the show. Do you like that they actually went there, Mo?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Go ahead again.
Oh, yeah, sure. The twins. That's what we haven't talked about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they are Tommy and Billy, which are their current names. I don't think they're the original names.
No, they're not. They're not the original kids' names.
But they are the current incarnations of the characters. Speed, Tommy, who is also the oldest in that's a nice touch, and Billy, who is Wiccan, who are particularly Billy is a very, very prominent comic book character.
Right.
So do you think that's do you think that's just fan service, or do you think that the twins are going to be really?
Okay, so hear me out. I don't think the kids are going to play any role in this. I think they're just like, oh look, we gave you kids. I think we're going to get them into like a couple of episodes, and I think at some point, I think during the unraveling is when, if they're going to unravel everything in this season, I think that's they're just going to like fade out. It's going to be sad. It's going to be one of the sad things that we lose or she loses. And I don't think the kids are going to play like a major, role. Just it's something for her to hold on to keep holding on to keep her in, to keep her grounded in this world.
I think there's some truth to that, but at the same time, I mean, particularly Billy is such an important young Avenger. And they're introducing America. They're introducing Kate. They're introducing Stature, or whatever they'll end up calling her in the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. That like, I can't imagine they won't. And I wouldn't be surprised if the twins are the hook for Wanda in Doctor Strange, where she might want to go like try to find them or rescue them or find a universe where they exist or something like that, where that could be her hook that makes her makes it less villainous. That's why she cares about the multiverse, is that she wants to get her kids back should they be separated from her or something like that. That's just pure theory. But I would not be surprised because Young Avengers is coming.
Right. And it is.
Young Avengers without Wiccan is like not Young Avengers. He's one of the most prominent. But I think that's basically everything.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything. But if just a touch,
Sure, I've got all the time.
if we lose the twins in this season, you might be right. If they're gonna go with the villain Wanda, right? That could be an anchor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you on that. But in this season, I don't think the twins are gonna play any role.
I don't know. Like all they've said.
We have 6 episodes. Are you gonna age them, or are you gonna keep them babies?
I think you're gonna age them.
Okay.
Like I think we could see them as. I mean, they've said repeatedly that they're like each episode is like a sitcom era until the very end.
Yeah, right.
And all the sitcoms of that era, like the 80s to to Modern Family, which is kind of they've said they're going to do a Modern Family episode. Like the kids are central to all of that. Like compared to the Dick Van Dyke and Bewitched, where the kids aren't really important. Starting with 70s and 80s sitcoms, kids become really, really important. And I would imagine that they will. Like the next one is supposed to be Family Ties, and
oh man,
yeah, so
I can't wait.
Well, and people have said that a big influence is the episodes where Tom Hanks showed up as a drunk uncle. So, and Pietro got mentioned at the end of episode 3.
He did.
So maybe we'll see ATJ back as
right. We might catch him back, but that would be interesting. But so far we've discussed episodes 1, 2, and 3. I can't believe we got that in there, but we did. And we've kind of touched on Sword and Shield. We've kind of touched on the what if, the what if, the what will happen or what could happen. I'm still leaning Wanda being the villain and being a villain post this show. Fingers crossed, Marvel do it. Go balls to the wall and do something different. I mean, I'm not one of the people that believes in the Marvel formula, but if there is a Marvel formula out there and you want to break from it, this is it right here. Do it. Do something different. I don't think there's one, but because there's no more Tony Stark. Roy, thank you for doing this. Hopefully we can catch you next Friday with the rest of the fellas. It was supposed to be Anthony and Kyle, but they bailed last minute. But thank you, Roy, for making this happen. We will catch you next week for episode 4 of WandaVision. I'm super excited to talk about it, man. So hopefully we'll see you next.
I love it.
Right. All right then.